Peace, family. Y'all know who it is. It's Bakari Lumumba back at it once again, the progenitor of LumumbaSpeaks.com, a Black empowerment initiative where we believe we could gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black. If you're watching, make sure you hit the subscribe and the like button before we get started. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Smash that thumbs up button. Smash that subscribe button, as well as the notification bell. So we're going to be having a robust, intellectually robust and vigorous conversation regarding what Black men can learn from TJ Holmes. As many of you may be aware, TJ Holmes is a analyst with Good Morning America 3. He is alleged to have had a affair with a white female co-worker by the name of Amy, if I remember correctly, Amy Robach. Both of them were actually married. However, Good Morning America does not have a policy that outlaws, or I guess for lack of states that you cannot have relations with a co-worker. However, they both have been pulled from the air, and as a result, new allegations are coming out about TJ Holmes, stating that not only did he have an affair with Ms. Robach, he also had another affair with a staffer, and there's been leaked information regarding his behavior on the job in terms of how he speaks to producers, so on and so forth. I had a similar topic or similar broadcast that we did a couple months ago when the situation with Ime Udoka broke out. And we will revisit some of my positions and talking points on that situation. But definitely want some people to jump in the chat momentarily. I'm going to put the link in the chat momentarily. But before we do, have to go over the ground rules here at Lumumba Speaks. As you all know, I believe in diversity of thought. I do not shun anyone who has a differing opinion from our own. However, we do take issue with alternative facts. So we are fans of a diversity of thought. We know that our Black people, African people, we are not a monolithic people. We have varying values, worldviews, and perspectives. However, I don't allow alternative facts here on the channel. Number two, no racial epithets of any kind can be used when referencing African people, irrespective of one's political ideology, geographic place of origin, you can't, or even sexual orientation. You cannot in any way, shape, or form on my platform use a racial epithet of any kind when you're describing an African person, Black person, in any way, shape, or form for any reason. If you do, of course, I will shut you down, and more than likely, I would actually block you. So don't let that happen. Number three, and probably most importantly, facts over feelings, brothers and sisters. As you know, here at Lumumba Speaks, we believe in facts over feelings. You can give an opinion, but we want to undergo those opinions with facts. And then last but not least, you cannot make any claims that are patently false. If you do, I will shut you down. The example that I always give, and I use this example ad nauseum on every broadcast, is that you can have an opinion based on who you believe is the GOAT when it comes to basketball, who's the greatest basketball player of all time, Michael Jordan or LeBron James. However, what you cannot do is make claims that are patently false. So if you were to state, I think LeBron James is the best ever because he went to 10 straight NBA finals, hey, who freaking cares? That's your opinion. You are entitled to it. But if you were to state that LeBron James is the best player ever because Michael Jordan only won one championship, that would be making a claim that is patently false. Thus, it would be, in my eyes, deemed problematic. And then I, of course, would have to shut you down. So just want to make sure everyone is familiar with the ground rules before we get started and get engaged in this conversation. I think there's a lot that Black men can learn from the TJ Holmes situation, as well as we mentioned before in the Ime Udoka situation that I believe took place back in the summer, if I'm not mistaken. I think before the season started, this is when it came out. But for those of you who are unaware of TJ Holmes, I'm actually going to share my screen and get the ball rolling here, and I'll read this article. Or maybe just peruse through. But you can see TJ Holmes is an alleged serial cheater. So we see right off the bat, he seems to be seeking to assassinate his character. He's being stated, it's alleged that he is, the article starts off stating that he is an alleged serial cheater. The Good Morning America 3 host at least one other alleged affair in addition to his relationships with co-host Amy Robach and producer Natasha Singh. Multiple sources tell Page 6. Multiple sources tell us that Holmes had a relationship with another staffer while working at the network and married to his wife, Marley Feebig. Reps for Holmes did not comment on the allegation. Page 6 reported last week that married co-anchors Holmes, 45, and Robach, 49, have left their partners after an alleged months-long affair. but that the pair were plagued by internal speculation for years, going far back as 2017, and were confronted by anchor Robin Roberts about the rumors. Page Six also exclusively reported that Holmes also had a 3-year affair with married Good Morning America producer Singh that started in 2016. Singh has since divorced and told us no comment when we reached out. Big found out about the affair in 2019 after discovering several emails were told. Holmes and Roback were taken off the air on Monday in light of the news surrounding their alleged affair with Singh, as well as his affair with Singh. TJ's cheating with ABC staffers was definitely one of the reasons why they were yanked off, says a source. It's become a distraction. ABC declined comment on his alleged affairs. We're told that there are other issues as well. He's also I would presume, DICK to producers. No one likes to work with him, says the insider. He yells and has the biggest ego. ABC News President Kim Goldwyn announced Monday during an internal call that the pair would not host their daily 1 p.m. show because the situation had become too much of an internal and external distraction. A source tells Page Six that they don't believe the two are off for good. So, as we can see here, seems like they're really coming after the brother, right? As I stated before, I read a CNN article that said that they did not have a policy prohibiting Good Morning America at ABC employees from having relations with co-workers. However, as we can see, as a result, they both have been taken off the air. And as we can see, they're even making allegations of him being a serial cheater, using some very strong language to describe his brother in a manner that, of course, is unflattering and unbecoming. So I'm going to put the link in the chat, and we're going to get the conversation started. But before we do, I'm going to make use my bully pulpit. And as I've always stated, I am vehemently opposed to workplace romances. I've never engaged in one, never have, never will. I have the philosophy that I do not dip, and I will not dip my pen in company ink, and I do not, under any circumstances, fish off the company pier. Even if the company doesn't have a policy that prohibits one to date coworkers, I don't care how fine the woman is. It could be Holly Berry in 1995, starring in the Flintstones. Just doesn't work for me. I am one that I don't like to put. I tend not to, and I would advise all Black men or anyone, period, never to allow your romantic life to put your livelihood in jeopardy. I think it's rather unfortunate. As I said before, we saw the same type of situation unfold with Ime Udoka. As a result, he was suspended indefinitely from the Boston Celtics. And then we saw there was a situation where he actually was going to be hired as the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. But the media came out and prevented him from being able to obtain that job. So when many people say, what's the big deal? Why are you doing a show about this? I think we need to realize that this is a major issue. And what tends to happen, unfortunately, is Black men are the ones who come out, on the short end of the stick in this type of situation. We saw what happened with Ime Udoka, to where he was suspended, had a salary cut. But the staffer who also broke the rule, they faced no disciplinary action. And I'm afraid that the same may happen with TJ Holmes. And so I think this is a clear example of a situation in which we need to think with our big head, and of course not a little head. As I stated before, I don't think you should put romance before finance. So that's my take on it. Would love to get some brothers and sisters to tap in, be part of the conversation. As I said it before, the link is in the chat, as you all know, and I state this ad nauseum. You do not have to cam up to be part of this conversation. You do not have to cam up to be part of the conversation. And you do not have to use your actual name. You can use a pseudonym if you want to. But definitely want to get some different people's takes on this situation. I know there's even a racial element here. Many people take umbrage with the fact that this is a brother who is married to a sister, Black woman. And of course, he had an affair and cheated with a white woman. So there's a racial element here as well. So I'm definitely looking forward to hearing you all's thoughts regarding what Black men can learn from the TJ Holmes situation, scandal, so on and so forth. As I said before, my perspective, and this has been very consistent throughout my adult life, that you do not put romance above finance. And I think it's unfortunate that we're still seeing brothers, unfortunately, doing this. This brother, of course, is 45 years old. He's an extremely well-accomplished journalist. I've even did some research on his backstory and how he drove from the University of Arkansas to, of course, Joplin, Missouri to interview for a job. He had his video there, resume, CV all lined up, and they hired him on the spot. So this is brother, someone who's extremely ambitious. After that, I think he went to actually be a reporter in San Francisco. Then after starring in San Francisco, doing an outstanding job at his position with a news branch in San Francisco, he then hit it big time and went national, right? And so to see a brother who was extremely well accomplished, very good at what he does, I would argue even does his job at the elite level, right? To be in a situation to where it could maybe, unfortunately, all fall down, right? As a result, I think is it's unfortunate. So definitely want to get some people to tap in, be part of the conversation. I said it before. The link is in the chat. We want to have a intellectually stimulating, robust conversation regarding what Black men can learn from the TJ Holmes situation. As I stated before, he and, of course, his colleague, Amy Robach, have been temporarily, I would assume, and maybe suspended from on-air duties. There's a statement out by ABC president. It's been created internal, so as well as external problems in the organization. And so as a result, they've been suspended, I dare say. And so definitely want to get some people's perspective, once again, on what they think Black men, particularly Black men, can learn. We unfortunately find that in these type of situations, workplace romances, even the same with Tavis Smiley. Tavis Smiley had a situation where he was dating women at his company. He felt there was nothing wrong with it. But as we know, they say there's no wrath like a woman scorned, right? And when the relationships didn't work out, these women went and said, you know what? We didn't work out and he did X, Y, Z. He took some type of punitive action against me in the workplace. And so, of course, as a result, the company that he founded, I believe that he had to resign, and even he had to resign from not only the position that he was in, but actually fork over all control over the company that he actually founded. So we're seeing, unfortunately, a troubling pattern with Black men. And I'm not saying that other men don't do this, but this is something that I think we need to touch on, because we see that when Black men are engaged in workplace romances and they go awry for any reason, even if they don't go awry, it tends to be what elevated in the media and seen as if they were doing something nefarious in nature, right? And that could go all the way back to maybe the 1800s, where there was this belief and argument that Black men wanted to rape white women, and that we were sexually lascivious in nature, barbaric, and we could control ourselves, so on and so forth. So there may be a tidbit of that there. And as I said before, in reading this article on page 6, it starts off by saying TJ Holmes is an alleged serial cheater, right? So they start off with an extremely provocative statement in the article, right? So they were doing him no favors, but as we see, they didn't make the same type of provocative statements about, of course, Miss Robach. So like I stated before, the link is in the chat. Tap in as we have a robust, stimulating conversation regarding what Black men can learn from TJ Holmes. As I stated before, we're starting to see prominent Black men who are engaging in workplace romances end up on the short end of the stick, right? And I think we definitely need to have a conversation about not putting romance above finance, because we know that in every situation, what is most important is that we maintain our livelihood as a people above all things. So definitely hope we get some people to tap in, be part of that conversation. As I've always stated before, you do not have to cam up. I repeat, you do not have to cam up, and you can use a pseudonym to, of course, shield your identity if you would like to do so. I know many people work in industries or sectors where they may have some non-traditional values and what many people would consider controversial viewpoints. And so as a result, we don't want to have people come on that espousing a particular perspective or viewpoint, and then as a result, they may once again find themselves in a situation where they're in hot water on the job. So once again, as I said before, you do not have to cam up, but we want to have a great conversation tonight regarding what Black men can learn from the TJ Holmes situation. If many of you are unaware, but TJ Holmes is an anchor with Good Morning America 3. He typically headlines the 1 p.m. Broadcast with actually his co-host, Amy Robach. And unfortunately, they were having an affair. And what ended up taking place was they were removed from the air due to the fact that the speculation and the issues around that. But now, as a result of this coming out, there's been other allegations coming out regarding his conduct on the job, in terms of him being a DICK, in terms of him being a jerk, in terms of him yelling and screaming at staffers and producers, so on and so forth. So you can almost see like they're piling the layers on to try to say, you know what, this guy's a problem. We need to get him out of here. And so I just think it's something that we really need to be cognizant of, that when we're working in any industry, that Black people, particularly Black men, tend to have a magnifying glass on our behavior. I know I can state from personal experience that tends to happen. And I'm not arguing that we need to shrink ourselves in any way, shape, or form, or even code switch. I'm not a fan of that. In fact, I may even do a broadcast on code switching and why I find it problematic. But I do think that we have to just be extremely responsible with our actions and our words. And so if any of you have sons, nephews, little cousins, I think these are conversations we need to have with them in terms of when they move forward, being in the workplace, even having their own business, and engaging in trying to not only create industry for our people, but even control industry. And we know that's the ultimate goal, so that we can maintain and sustain a livelihood and ensure a livelihood for subsequent generations. This is definitely something that we have to consider, because once again, we're seeing a number of high-profile Black men, from, of course, currently TJ Holmes to Emeka Udoka to Tavis Smiley, find themselves in hot water, receiving backlash from the media as a result of them having workplace romances. And what we are finding, that irrespective of how these romances played out, irrespective of the fact that these were consensual relations between two adults, the Black men are still seen as villains, still seen as somehow of a predator, still seen as engaging in problematic behavior that is unbecoming of a professional and are actually deleterious to what the workplace environment. So definitely want some brothers and sisters to tap in, be part of the conversation. The link is in the chat. As I stated before, you do not have to cam up. You do not have to cam up. As I stated before, also, there's a racial element here. Brother Holmes, and many people may argue that he's not a brother because he was cheating on his Black wife with a white woman. There's a racial element here. Definitely would want to get some people's perspective on that. Then, of course, the fact that the article started off stating that he is a serial, keyword serial cheater. As I stated before, the article starts off making an extremely provocative statement. I'm a provocative writer, and many of the writings that I engage in, I make some provocative statements to really grab the reader's attention. But like I said before, we tend to find a pattern when Black men are engaging in romantic relations in the workplace, irrespective of how these relationships were formed, created, irrespective if these are consensual relationships. The Black men we tend to find are always on the shoulder end of the stick. They're always seen as engaging in behavior and conduct that's unbecoming, as if they were almost predatory in nature. We saw that this is basically what took place with Ime Udoka back in the summer before the season started, but they almost act like he was, a predator and pressured this woman into having a consensual relationship. And so we know that oftentimes, unfortunately, when we shout out to the Godfather, Kevin Samuels, he makes the argument that unfortunately modern women oftentimes see themselves as perpetual victims. So I even know that there's a sister, Crimson Cure, who makes the argument that modern women are professional victims, right? So we're not going to get into that. Maybe I'll bring her on the channel and she would be able to share her perspective on why she says that. But it's unfortunate that, once again, that we're finding brothers who are putting romance above finance and finding themselves in a situation to where their livelihoods are in jeopardy. So I would say for myself, once again, that I have never engaged in a workplace romance. I didn't care how fine a woman was, how vivacious, how powerful, how stunning. It didn't matter how mesmerizing and hypnotizing her beauty or hips was. I never even broached the conversation or subject matter with any of my female colleagues. And I think that is a principle and a practice and a method that we need to follow, particularly Black men working in a professional setting or any setting in that matter. I even argue that I try to practice the Mike Pence strategy. And many people may be unaware what I mean by that, because we know Mike Pence was the vice president for 45, Donald Trump. And so my strategy was, if I was going to have a conversation with a woman, I said, well, I would want to have my mate there as well, have someone else in the room, because I never want there to even be a hint of impropriety, right? We know oftentimes, unfortunately, it could be a he said, she said situation. And we know, unfortunately, that when it comes down to that, it's more likely than not that individuals will not lean on our side in terms of believing that we are being truly forthcoming with the facts regarding what transpired in said situation. So I think it's important that really in all situations, particularly in the workplace, because this is tied to our livelihood, that we do everything that we can to secure and protect ourselves from these type of accusations that can take place. So with that being said, the link is in the chat. Once again, you could tap in, be part of the conversation. You do not have to cam up, but definitely want to get some people's perspective on what they think Black man can learn from the TJ Holmes situation. And of course, we could open the conversation up to touch on Tavis Smiley. There may be some individuals who weren't aware of what took place with Tavis Smiley. And there may be even some people who aren't really familiar who Tavis Smiley is. And he, of course, is an author, an activist, a speaker. He's famous for creating writing the book, The Covenant with Black America. And he would also have, I think, if I remember correctly, a summit every year where there would be a number of African American leaders that would come and speak regarding different issues in Black America. So I'm trying to see if I can look it up now, what he would always have each year. See if I can pull that up rather quickly. Yeah, he was fired from BET, as I said before. Smiley hosted BET Tonight until 2001. So that's not the issue. Yeah, PBS. So he hosted Tavis Smiley late night talk show, televised on public broadcasting service, PBS, in 2006. So yeah, he was fired from there. So that's basically what took place. In 2017, during the Me Too movement, Smiley was accused of sexual harassment against his female employees. PBS launched an investigation. It was concluded that Smiley had engaged in widespread acts of sexual misconduct, including creating a verbally abusive and threatening environment, as well as engaging in sexual relationships with multiple subordinates. Smiley was suspended indefinitely. Keyword is indefinitely. We find that when Black men tend to be in these type of romantic relationships in the workplace, the suspension tends to be indefinitely rather than actually being fired. So Smiley was suspended indefinitely following the investigation. Smiley denied the allegations and sued PBS, citing wrongful termination. However, Smiley lost his bid when a jury found that Smiley violated a morality clause within his contract. The judge in the case ordered Smiley to pay $2.6 million in damages. So, as I stated before, we have to put, as brothers, sisters, Black community, we need to put finance above romance. Tavis Smiley engaged in what I would presume are consensual relations with female subordinates, and it cost him $2.6 million. And so, as I would always tell people, listen, you can find someone anywhere, but I would argue you should never seek to find someone in the workplace. So once again, $2.6 million, and many people may be unaware, Tavis Smiley, since 2000, he hosted some annual town hall meeting called the State of the Black Union, which aired on C-SPAN. I can recall watching for a couple of years, with some dynamic speakers came on and spoke about some of the issues that took place in Black America. And how we could address those issues through building institutions, creating initiatives or movements. And he's a prolific author. I think he's written over a dozen books. But once again, we find, this idea of romance taking precedence over finance. And as a result, he was out of a job. And of course, ordered to pay $2.6 million in damages. And we're talking about Tavis Smiley. So I think there's a record here that for Black men, when they engage in romantic relationships with colleagues, not only does it turn out bad for them, they get to shorten the stick, but they oftentimes have to face some pay some rather steep financial penalties, right? The same with Ime Udoka. Once again, having his salary cut in half, being his name run through the mud, through the media. And then, of course, last but not least, we see the situation with TJ Holmes, where not only did they make an allegation that he's a serial cheater, and he may be a philanderer, right? But once again, he's been removed from the air, as well as his female colleague, even though they have not violated what company policy. And I would dare say that now they're trying to pile on the garbage when they make accusations that he's a jerk on the job. He's screaming and yelling at subordinates and producers. He has a massive ego, so on and so forth. So we definitely need to take a look at this and really ask the question: what can black men learn from the TJ Holmes situation? So the link is in the chat. As I said it before, the link is in the chat. Tap in, be part of the conversation. Definitely want to get you all's opinion, your view of the situation, right, wrong, or indifferent. And as you know, you do not have to cam up. Keyword is you do not have to cam up. And last but not least, you can use a pseudonym if you like. You don't have to use your real name, because I know many of you want to maintain your anonymity due to the fact that you may work in an industry where you have non-traditional views or values, perspectives, and you don't want that to put you in a situation where, unfortunately, you may find yourself in hot water with HR, right? So I definitely understand that, but the link is in the chat once again, and we just want to have a great conversation regarding what's going on here. So, as I stated before, the link is in the chat. What black men can learn from TJ Holmes. I think I've gone over what's taking place, and I'm definitely looking forward to hearing from you all and making some moves. So once again, hope some people tap in, be part of the conversation. If not, I'm going to shut things down. But I think this is a major issue, definitely an issue that black men need to look at, because I said it before, black men tend to be vilified irrespective of what we do in American society, right? We know the great Earl Afari Hutchinson, who was an activist and author and a social critic out in LA. Shout out to the West Coast, right? One of the arguments that he makes in his seminal book, Assassination of Black Male Image, is that irrespective of what black men do, irrespective of who they are or what they're about, we tend to find ourselves in situations where our image is being assassinated and destroyed. So definitely think that I might even do a broadcast on that. But I want to get you all's perspective once again on the TJ Holmes situation, what black men can learn from TJ Holmes. The link is in the chat. I put it in. Once again, there may be people who are unable to do the link that I put in before. Just want to get some perspectives on what you all think can, should be done regarding this situation, right? I think there are a number of people who may say, hey, what's the big deal? He hasn't violated any laws or any company rules, right? So why is this a situation? But we tend to find this is what takes place. Unfortunately, if you are a black man, if you're engaging in a workplace romance at any time, you can be, unfortunately, in a situation where your livelihood is in jeopardy, right? So I just think that it's important that we are cognizant and considerate of these things. But also, as I said before, there's a racial element here, right? I wouldn't be surprised if there would be a narrative that the media starts to spin to where as if Miss Robach, and I think I'm pronouncing her name correctly, somehow was victimized by him and forced into the relationship. We know that tends to always happen. But also, as we said before, this being a black man who's married to a black woman, and of course, having an affair with a white woman, definitely this would be a Tyler Perry movie, right? Definitely be a Tyler Perry movie coming up. So once again, the link is in the chat. Tap in, be part of the conversation. If not, I'm going to probably give it a couple more minutes, and then we're going to do like Cameron and Harlem and Dipset. So definitely, like I stated before, the link is in the chat. Tap in and share your perspective. You do not have to come up. You can use a pseudonym, but I want to get you all's perspective on what you think black men can learn from not only the TJ Holmes situation, but also Emeka Udoka, and of course, Tavis Smiley. And if you're unfamiliar with those situations, you could tap in, put a link in, put a comment in, and of course, I can share some of that information as well. So definitely looking forward to having a robust, intellectually stimulating conversation regarding where we tend to find a high profile black man engaging in workplace romances. And it seems, just from my view, my perspective, that irrespective of if the romantic relationship is consensual or not, we find ourselves in situations where the black men are getting the short end of the stick. I can even recall Tavis Smiley actually doing an interview where he was trying to do damage control, when he made an argument that, hey, I don't think it's wrong to try to find love in the workplace. And he made an argument that many people have, their spouses were at some point their co-workers. He made the argument that Barack Obama met Michelle Obama at work, and they were able to build a great romance and of course a marriage and have a family. So many people, he was trying to do damage control, but it didn't matter. Of course, he was found liable. He was fired. He sued, lost, and was ordered to pay $2.6 million to the company, to PBS. And of course, he was fired from the show that he created. Right. And so that's $2.6 million. I don't think there's any amount of, that's worth that much. So I think it's definitely important that we actually communicate to our young man that finance needs to come before romance. Right. So once again, the link is in the chat. Tap in, be part of the conversation. I want to get you all's perspective. Like I said before, we can open this up a little bit more. We don't have to talk specifically about TJ Holmes, M.A. Adoka, or even Tyler Smiley. We could just talk about your perspectives on workplace romances in general. Do you think they're good? Do you think they're bad? Are you for them? Are you pro? Are you con? Have you ever dated a coworker? We could really open it up and have a robust conversation. We don't have to, just be so tethered to just the TJ Holmes situation. But as I've said before, my perspective is I've never, ever in life, literally ever, dipped my pen in company ink or attempted to fish off the company pier, right? So that's my perspective, but I definitely would love to hear some other people's perspective. As I said it before here at Lumumba Speaks, we believe in diversity of thought. I am not going to take umbrage with you taking a perspective that is different than mine, right? Only thing I ask is that you do not provide or present alternative facts, meaning you do not make claims that are patently false. But I have no issue with someone coming on and saying, I'm a fan of workplace romances. We know that even nowadays we tend to hear in social media this concept of the workplace husband or the workplace spouse. Well, this is my work husband or my work wife, right? So we can really open the conversation up and really start to really interrogate some of these different ideas of what it means to date a coworker, right? As I said it before, and I think I've stated this ad nauseum, this is not something I've ever done. It's not something I will ever do. I just kind of have a principle to not put romance above finance. And as I said before, we see in the cases of all three of these high-profile Black men that I would argue putting romance before finance has put them in a situation to where they've suffered financially, right? And so this is something to be considerate of. But once again, we're here at LumumbaSpeaks.com. If you're watching, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Hit the notification bell as well. Don't forget to subscribe. We're looking to have a conversation regarding what Black men can learn from TJ Holmes. And if you are unaware, many people didn't even know anything about who TJ Holmes was maybe a week or two ago. But now we find a situation where he's really front page news regarding an alleged, or even I would dare say confirmed affair with a coworker, a white woman by the name of Amy Robach. It's from what all reports, it appears to be a consensual relationship that took place. They did not violate company policy by having a romantic relationship, but nevertheless, they both were, of course, removed from the air Monday. And at this point, their status is up in the air, even though statements from the company or insiders are arguing that their removal is not permanent, but it simply was creating friction and problems in the workplace. But of course, as I said in the article I read, which is on page6.com, they made the rather provocative statement that he is a serial cheater. Now, we do know that anytime that we tend to find Black men in the media, particularly for something that is considered unbecoming, they tend to make very provocative, demonstrative statements about Black men. Like I can recall when the LeVar Ball was doing his Thug Dizzle, right? And he was promoting his sons and, of course, promoting his brand, Big Baller brand. And I think it was the white female reporter who said, oh, who knows kids? And this is something that tends to happen, particularly with Black men, when we are being fathers. When I was on the broadcast yesterday with brother Kenyatta, shout out to Chicago, right? And we had a conversation regarding, I say the Black men tend to be damned if they do, damned if they don't, right? So if a Black man isn't raising his child, or the child is misbehaving, unruly, acting like a pickaninny, the allegation is, see, Black men aren't good fathers. But then if the children are well behaved, then it's, oh my gosh, that's Christina Leedy, I think her name is. She said, well, they must be afraid of him, right? So she had never met this man before, but she was willing to go on national television and, of course, make some extremely provocative statements about this man and his parenting, that his children were afraid of him. So these are the type of things that we tend to find take place in the media, right? And so this is something that we could pull in as well in terms of having a conversation. As I said before, the link is in the chat. Tap in. I don't want to be the only one speaking tonight, right? I tend to monopolize conversations at work enough, right? So definitely tap in, be part of the conversation. Share with me what your thoughts on this situation. I definitely think that there's much to be discussed, much to be unpacked, and I look forward to having that conversation. So definitely tap in if you can. Um, we want to have a conversation regarding what Black men can learn from, of course, TJ Holmes. The link is in the chat. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. You do not have to come up to be part of the conversation. Once again, as I said before, you do not have to come up to be part of the conversation. You can use a pseudonym, but I'm interested in hearing what you all think about the situation. And of course, this whole idea of having a workplace romance in general. Are you pro? Are you con? Tap in, be part of the conversation, and let me know your thoughts on workplace romances. And of course, your view of what we tend to find taking place with Black men when they're in a situation where, if they are engaged in a workplace romance, it tends to always be seen as they're doing something nefarious in nature. So once again, I'm probably gonna stay on for about another 5 minutes, and then I'm gonna tap out if no one comes on. All right, and you're watching LumumbaSpeaks.com here on YouTube, a Black empowerment initiative where we believe we could gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black. Make sure you tap in, brothers and sisters. Tap in, tap in, tap in. Want to have a robust conversation this evening regarding what Black men can learn from TJ Holmes. As I said it before, we can include the situation with Ime Udoka as well as Tavis Smiley. And I would love to get you all's perspectives on, are you a fan? Are you pro or con when it comes to workplace romances? How do you feel about the concept and idea or term, that's my work husband or my work wife? And this idea of putting romance before finance, right? As I stated before, Tavis Smiley was ordered by a jury to pay $2.6 million to PBS for engaging in behavior that they believed was unbecoming and particularly engaging in what they consider sexual harassment, to the having relationships with subordinates. I think that's just nonsensical. There's no way I would have a sexual relationship or a romantic relationship or anything other than a professional relationship with someone who's a subordinate. So once again, we find ourselves in a situation here. So once again, he's in a bit of a quagmire, a bit of a pickle, but tap in, be part of the conversation. If not, I'm gonna close things out. So I'm gonna give it a couple minutes. And then if not, we're going to shut things down. Appreciate everyone who did come on, tap in and be part of the conversation. But definitely hope that we can get someone to come in and be part of the conversation. So don't be shy. Don't be scared. Once again, as I said before, you do not have to cam up to be part of the conversation, and you can use a pseudonym. But as I stated before, my philosophy when it comes to workplace romances is I don't engage in them for any reason whatsoever, no matter how fine, irrespective of how fine the sister is. As I said before, I do not dip my pen in company ink, and I do not, under any conditions, try to or even attempt to fish out the company pier. So with that being said, I don't think we're going to get anybody tonight. So I'm going to tap out. Appreciate everyone who came on. Until next time, y'all know what to do. Peace.